We are making beautiful, delicious, flavorful, crispy, golden cutlets. The main construction of the entire thing here consists of pork loin that is butterflied and pounded so that it gets very thin. It gets seasoned. It then gets breaded in a way that I have a very particular way of breading my cutlets that I think renders the best crispiness, but also the best flavor as well. And it gets served with this beautiful mushroom gravy that is made with beer, it's made with apples, it's kind of sweet, sour, rich, creamy. It has it all. Finally, I serve the cutlets with a side salad that I would call it my dream crunchy salad. And it brings brightness and crunch, and it just kind of like wakes everything up. It's intensely green, it's colorful, like it's sort of there to kind of like bring everyone back to life, which is the purpose of a salad. But for the weekend, it is the perfect activity for me to stay inside and make something delicious because it's outside, it's dark and cold, and we can't go out and play yet. This is more of a Schnitzel inspired cutlet. It's probably not gonna be very traditional because I'm not German. I don't know if you can tell by the everything about me. But I did try to investigate as much as possible and understand what are the main components that sort of make schnitzels so delicious. I realized that there is a specific word for a schnitzel that is pork and not veal, but I can't remember what it is, and if I could remember, I probably couldn't pronounce it. The first thing that I'm gonna do is concentrate on the gravy portion of the entire thing. The reason why I do this, I recommend you first focusing on the gravy, then doing the cutlets, and then finally doing the salad. The gravy benefits from, once you're making it, from sitting on the stovetop on low heat, simmering and concentrating the flavors. I have here some very simple cremini mushrooms. You can use the mushrooms that you want. I like cremini because they are like pretty much always available. They are cost effective, and when cooked right, they have a lot of flavor. The one thing that I'm gonna do is that I am not going to wash them with water before cooking. I'm going to clean them with a wet cloth, just get rid of any like visible dirt. Some people get nervous about not washing their mushrooms in water or not soaking them in water. It is true, of course, mushrooms grow in the ground and they have dirt. That is what we are removing here, especially on like the stem, like between the stem and like where the mushroom grows. That's where you wanna just like scrub it a little bit. Remember that like we're gonna cook these. We're not eating them raw. That high temperature is what's going to make them safe to eat. There's a lot of mythology about how to cook mushrooms. If you ever had the experience of like going to a restaurant and saying, these mushrooms are fantastic, why can I not cook them like that in my house? It's likely because they successfully drew out all of the water from the mushroom. That requires a lot more patience than you think. Mushrooms are like sponges. They absorb everything, and they already have quite a bit of water inside of them. The way to develop their flavors and bring out all of their beautiful, meaty, earthy notes is to effectively get rid of all the water by evaporating it, by making it go away. There's also a lot said about never crowding the pan when cooking mushrooms and always leaving them super like spacious so that the water can evaporate. Remember that water at a certain point evaporates. That's just like its law. Water cannot stay in its liquid form past a certain temperature. So a lot of the times I would say that it is a patience thing. The water will go away, I promise you. So now I'm gonna slice them. Ooh, we missed a little guy. I like slicing them thinly, but I like to see the shape of the onion. The onion, what the hell? It's okay. Some people don't eat the stem like this one. I do. I think that it has beautiful bite and beautiful flavor. I would never waste it. This sort of shape, that's what we're looking for. Thin slicing them, and then we can saute them. Mushrooms are so beautiful. Super versatile. Like there's a reason why vegans and vegetarians use them so much, because like when you cook them right, you can do whatever you want with a mushroom. It's great. They're also kind of freaky. Did you guys see The Last of Us? Can't wait for the second season. Like the fact that this grows in a forest to me is big pan and olive oil. Quite a bit of olive oil, guys. I'm not gonna tiptoe around this. This is weekend cooking. This is when we reward our bodies and our minds and our hearts with olive oil. So put enough olive oil to, you know, coat the pan, basically. Your mushrooms will thank you. And if I tilt it, there's a little bit of oil pooling. Just give everyone a little mix so that everyone gets a little touch of oil. It's gonna look like the oil disappears. That's because mushrooms like absorb everything. Season with salt. There are some people that say don't salt your mushrooms until they've released all of their water. I don't agree. Salt them, season them. That's gonna draw out the moisture. That's what we want. The TLDR here is that like, you can't fight physics, guys. Or is it chemistry? Let me know. Okay. About 10 minutes have elapsed, and I want you to come see the level of transformation that we have in this pan. They reduced probably to less than half the size. I want you to notice how when you add your mushrooms and you coat them in oil, the oil disappears. You feel like it's never gonna be enough. And then if you let them cook for the right amount of time, the oil is back. Because basically what they did was like they absorbed the oil, then with the heat, the water expelled, they reduced in size, and because they reduced in size, they could no longer hold on to that oil, so they gave it back. A very fair transaction, if you ask me. We gave something, they did something with it, and then they gave it back. It's a lesson in trust. I'm no longer seeing steam coming out, which that is an indicator, right? You don't see steam, there's no more water. This is truly one of the reasons why I will never get bored of cooking. I can't get enough of seeing things transforming in front of my eyes. I really am like endlessly charmed by it. While my mushrooms get browned, this is a perfect opportunity for me to prepare the rest of my ingredients. So I am going to dice half of a yellow onion. I'm gonna chop some garlic as well. And I'm going to add 1 apple. The apple is something that I never thought about, but in my research, it came up a lot when cooking traditional schnitzel. I tried it and I'm never going back. Like, I think it's so delicious. It breaks down in the sauce. You're not gonna, you know, bite into a piece of apple, don't worry, but it gives the gravy this incredible contrast that I think will otherwise be missing, and without it, it would go kind of into the territory of like Thanksgiving territory, which this is what kind of like sets it apart. Now that I have everything chopped up, I rested my garlic in a little bit of olive oil, as I usually do, so that it doesn't oxidize. And to my apples, I'm adding about a teaspoon of vinegar, and I'm gonna mix them up just so that they are all in contact with that vinegar. That's just gonna prevent them from, again, oxidizing and turning brown. This is all ready to go in my pan. What I'm gonna do is I'm adding my onions and my apple at the same time in the pan. With those, I am adding 3 tablespoons of butter. What we're trying to do here, remember that we're trying to build a gravy, and the gravy is basically built on a roux. A roux is a communion of flour and fat. So we already have a little bit of olive oil in the pan. I do need a little bit more fat so that later we can add our flour and then it can all come together as a beautiful gravy. Butter goes into the pan, and then adding onions, apples, until the apples kind of like break down. The onions have also like become translucent, deeply fragrant. And once that has happened, I'm adding my garlic. The garlic we are going to cook, but not for too long because we don't want the garlic to burn. So that's why we add it last. Okay, so now that my alliums and my apples have shrunken. They have also released a lot of their water. This is now a perfect time for me to add my flour. So I'm going to add about 1/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour into this mix that I have, and I'm gonna stir that around. Essentially what I want here is to toast the flour so that the flour is gonna coat my vegetables and it's gonna dry everything up. It's gonna look weird, it's gonna look wrong, it's gonna be completely dry. But that is the point. I want to be able to increase the heat and toast that flour. Imagine as if you were toasting bread. I'm gonna be pushing everything around until I see that the mix is very, very, very dry and that there is a little bit of film getting stuck on the bottom of the pan. I need to kind of scrape it with my wooden spoon. That means that the flour is cooking, it's developing. I'm developing flavors here. As I see that the mixture has darkened in color, it's a little bit more golden brown, it smells very, very, very fragrant, I'm going to then stop the cooking and start my gravy with beer. So I'm not even gonna pretend that I am a beer expert. I don't drink beer. I will leave that to you. If you have a favorite beer, all that I would recommend to you is for it to be a light beer. We're gonna add the entire beer. This is 475 milliliters. Also adding about 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar because this needs acidity. This needs something to counteract all of those super developed flavors from the mushrooms and the butter and the onion and the garlic. I cannot tell you how much I love the smell of the beer with all of the garlicky, oniony flavors. It's truly, truly amazing. You wanna make sure that you pick up everything from the bottom of the pan. There's nothing scorching down there. And let it be, let it cook at medium heat. This is what is going to develop a beautiful, beautiful, thick, viscous gravy. As you try it, it might be that your gravy is a bit too intense or not liquid enough, that it's thickening too much. That's normal, add a little bit of water. Keep in mind that the more you cook it, the thicker it's gonna become. So it's not uncommon for it to become a bit too thick. Just thin it out with water, you're gonna be okay. And continue checking it for seasoning. But we seasoned it so well from the beginning, from the get-go, that this doesn't need any more salt, this doesn't need any more anything. Okay, now that we have our beautiful gravy, we can focus on our schnitzels, our cutlets. We are gonna be using pork loin. I am gonna be using pork loin. These fillets are a bit thick. I'm going to cut them in the middle across. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pound them a little bit. You can use a hammer or you can use one of those really heavy things that fancy cooks have. I don't have that. I have a cast iron, so I'm just gonna whack it with my cast iron. Essentially what you're looking for is to even out the height of the entire fillet. Cutting it halfway through across. Do your best to cut evenly. I'm not doing a very good job, I'm not gonna lie. And then once you reach almost like halfway through, you're gonna open it. Again, kind of like as a book. Don't worry about this too much. If it doesn't work out and if you, like me, are not a butcher and you don't butterfly really well, you can always just cut it all the way through in half and then pound it a little bit. It's the same thing, it's just you're gonna end up with smaller cutlets. This is more of an aesthetic thing. The most important thing is that it's even and it's thin so that it cooks quickly. After I am done with my cutlets, I am going to season them with salt. This is when your neighbors are gonna really love you. If you have someone who has wronged you, maybe you're working through some stuff, unearthing some uncomfortable truths in therapy, you know, like those kind of things, this would be the time to express those feelings. This is coming apart, so I'm pulling an audible here. I'm just gonna, after that therapeutic event, we have a total of 4, 5. We're gonna leave these to rest a bit. All right, it is dredging time. Are you ready? I know I am. We have 3 basic stations for our breading. One is a layer of flour, which is the first one. We need to cover our cutlets in something that will dry them up and something that will soak up the eggs. So this is AP flour, and to this, I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. So the cornstarch here is gonna help everything bind. Without the cornstarch, I find sometimes that the breading develops sort of like a layer that lifts from the pork that isn't very nice. Our wet station is 2 eggs, and I'm gonna scramble them right here, and I'm gonna add to them some mustard. The addition of mustard, gravy, schnitzel, it all lives in the same universe. I cannot go another video talking about how much I love mustard, so I'm gonna be using German mustard, as I should, Löwenzahn. So this is kind of mild, sweet, and then they go into the panko, and then we let them be until we're ready to fry. Make sure that there are no dry spots in the flour so that it coats evenly. Get rid of the excess flour by patting it. Same with the egg. Want to make sure that everything is covered, but then you let the excess egg drip off. Really pat in the panko. Be thorough here. This process is a little messy. Lean into it. It's fine. I did buy myself a new vacuum cleaner, and I'm very, very happy with it. I will admit, life is easier with a good vacuum cleaner. Wash this mess off your hands. Okay, we are almost done here, guys. We can see the finishing line. Stay with me. The last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna actually fry our cutlets. I'm gonna be using quite a large pan. I'm gonna be using my large cast iron just because I wanna do 2 at the same time. The idea is to never overcrowd anything when you're doing schnitzels, because that's how you get that beautiful golden brown color. So I'm gonna be using a hefty amount of grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil is great for frying. The idea is to have maybe about ½ inch of oil in the pan so that the cutlet can always be a little bit almost swimming. So in order to know when your oil is ready, you'll want to drop maybe a couple of panko breadcrumbs. And if they go to the top and they start bubbling, that means that the oil is ready. So using tongs here, I am taking one of my cutlets and I'm dropping it away from me on the oil so that if there's a splash, it happens away from me and not at me. You can always repeat the process if you feel like they're not golden brown enough. You can flip them around, keep them there as long as you need to develop that beautiful golden brown color. But just because, you know, the oil temperature, it varies and it changes, it's safer. 2.5 minutes, that's the mark to flip them. These are looking real pretty. This is an I love you meal. I think that, like, you don't make this for someone you, like, are lukewarm towards. Not everyone deserves a schnitzel, in my opinion. Wow, look at that color. My friends, we're done with our cutlets. I'm gonna let them rest, and as soon as I put them on the sheet, I'm gonna season them with a little bit of salt so that the salt sticks to the cutlet. All that's left to do now is create my beautiful salad, which is literally just crushed cucumber, sliced celery, and apple. All mixed in with enough lemon juice and olive oil, mixed in together with chili flake. And then topped with what can only be described as an obscene amount of dill. And that's it, we can serve. I'm so hungry. Here's what I know about my cutlets. They are crispy. The breading does not separate from the meat. It is absolutely flushed. That is thanks to the cornstarch. They're golden AF. Just want to bite with a mushroom. I really like the texture that the breading has once you pour gravy over it. It's still crispy, but it's beginning to get soggy. It's like really an interesting, you know, amount of textures. It has an amazing depth of flavor, and the notes that the beer introduced there are amazing. I think that it makes for a really, really, really interesting, nicely complemented, you know, well-rounded gravy. You get a piece of cucumber with dill and with celery, and it like jumpstarts you again. What can I say? To the one friend that is still here with me, I hope you make it. If you like recipes like this and you're interested in like upping your food game, subscribe to the newsletter. But in any case, thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you in the next one. Ciao.